What's the most fucked up thing you've ever walked in on? My ex high on air duster mumbling to herself while she was semi-conscious on the carpet. Her arm was bent backwards while her hand was in the back of her pants. I confronted her. She mumbled and I then realized she had herself and was smearing it on the floor. She wanted to marry me. I walked into an unlocked bathroom stall only to find a completely naked fat kid around 10 to 12 years old standing on the rim of the toilet while squatting to take a hit. He immediately began screaming profanities at me as if I'm the dumbass who was but naked in a public toilet and forgot to lock the door. I've tried, but it can't be unseen. Edit to answer the most asked question. He was black, not Asian. Went bar hopping with some friends a while ago, and one of girls in the group had a habit of running off when she got drunk and getting into trouble. As soon as we realized she was gone, everyone split up to look for her. I went to check the restrooms. The bar that we were in had one restroom for both guys and girls but multiple stalls. I find a stall with the door slightly open and hear weird noises from inside. Figured she must be puking in there, so I barge in. It wasn't her. It was actually 3 guys in a pseudo-human centipede threesome. Backed out slowly, had a cigarette, and called it a night. Edit. Gold for my dumb story. Wow, thanks. I honestly didn't think it'd blow up like it did. Answering a few questions. 1. We found my friend later that night, eating fries and making friends with strangers. 2. I can't tell you logistics of 3 grown-ass men clapping cheeks in a stall seeing as I barely understand it myself. And 3. We invite that friend out every once in a while because she's good fun and because her sister comes along to wrangle her in when she bolts. I was 16 years old when someday I was walking down the street in my hometown, saw a couple fighting and yelling at each other. Sounded like a breakup. I walked past by them trying not to pay much attention. A few meters later I hear the woman screaming in despair. I look back. The guy pulls out a gun, shoots her in the head, and then shoots himself in the head. Blood and brains everywhere. Certainly the most ducked up moment in my entire life. Edit. Thanks for the kind words everyone. I'm fine. Had a bit trouble to sleep that night but no trauma, I hope. My visceral reaction was to run away. However, I turned back. As soon as I started running, some woman had called the police, and I stood there until they arrived. It was 5 years ago. I don't think there's any article online about it. Happened in small town here in Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. The name of the guy was not Das BTW, lol. A guy being stabbed in the neck at work. An artery popped in me, and 3 co-workers kept him alive until the ambulance showed up. At the same time I had to close down the restaurant, get people out, and the other co-workers who were not managers away from the scene, and up to the dressing rooms. Also cussing at people outside of the restaurant, flipping their phones up, and filming/taking photos. I was 19 at the time. Pretty horrible experience overall. Edit. Guy survived. Edit 2. Many replies. We'll try to clarify a few things. Restaurant is a McDonald's in Sweden. The other 3 co-workers did the most directly with the victim, keeping him alive by pinching the artery or whatever it was to try and keep the blood flow restrained. I spotted him and did my part with the other co-workers and guests in the restaurant and so on. It was hectic and chaotic as a whole and god awful. In the moment everything just went autopilot from what I recall. Watching the security footage afterwards I had actually forgot things I did and how I acted during this. Might do another edit later once I'm home and can check replies. Thanks for the kind words people. Edit. The guys were white, and if I don't recall it entirely wrong it did not become major news. So your Muslim conspiracies and this is the new Sweden narrative need not go any further. Close bracket. I was visiting with my 70-year-old grandmother. Grandpa was in the shower and unaware I was there. He walks into the living room buck naked looking for some frisky time with grandma. He sees me and excuses himself from the room quickly. Awkward. 911 call in poor neighborhood of Hitty City in any US. Lady can't walk, literally lives in her recliner. Now, she has a colostomy bag, so all her poop is in there. But she just pees into the chair and then sits in it. The floor is soaked and discolored and somehow both sticky and slippery. We got called because her colostomy bag was failing to vent properly and actually exploded. Can't explain the smell. Didn't really walk in on it, as it kind of just started happening right in front of us. At a party, talking with my girlfriend and her friend on the side of the room, facing a couch. Then a dude dressed as Superman starts blowing a dude sitting on the couch. Presumably, dude finishes. Then Superman starts choking and coughs up a condom onto the floor. Superman then got up and walked away like nothing ducking happened. We looked at ourselves and couldn't believe what had just happened right in front of us, and the fact that no one else at the party seemed fazed by it. My wife and I went hiking and exploring old caves. I read of one that had a small entrance, but opened up to huge as soon as you got inside. Pretty sure I went into the wrong cave. Started crawling in. Dark as it. Turned on my flashlight and looked up. Thousands of ducking spiders all moving and pulsing on the ceiling of the small cave. I screamed like a child for my wife to pull me out. She grabbed my feet and dragged me out real quick. It was like the ceiling was pulsing. It was so thick, covered in spiders. Edit. Thanks for the gold. My brother just told me I've internet peaked. This was outside the SF Bay Area like 1.5 hours. I can't remember what the area was called exactly. We did a lot of hiking and rock climbing when we lived in CA. Saw some people post about cool caves in areas we wanted to go to anyways and thought we would give it a shot. Don't give it a shot. Edit 2. Thanks to /u/Iceman8371 for figuring out where I was. The Hell Caves in Santa Cruz, California. Do you know of those squishy balls that have liquid in them, and when you squeeze them, they make larger translucent balls, usually used to throw around? Well, I come home one day earlier from work and I walk into my room at holding two sides of the thing, because it has two elastic stretchy legs, and just going at it on his Johnson. He didn't hear me, so I just left him to his facilities, and waddled over to my room. He had made a hole in the toy, and removed the contents, I assume. I'm going to be honest, I sometimes wonder how it felt. A child choking themselves. The kid was about 6 years old, and I guess it was a game that gave some kind of pleasure to him. It was in school during playtime and there were a bunch of other kids around, but the teacher had her back to the kids for a moment, so she didn't notice. His mom was well freaked out when we spoke to her. It later turned out that the kid's older sister had seen something like that online with her friends and somehow, and God knows why, taught it to her little brother. As far as I know, the child is fine now. Seen my pictures of my sister's pee-pee and my mother's. I borrowed my mother's iPad coming home from university since I left my desktop at university. Downloaded an image to send to a friend on Facebook. The most recent saved photos came up as I was about to send the image to my friend. My image first followed by my mother taking a naked selfie. Years prior I let my sister borrow a camera I bought for a little holiday. She was visiting her long distance boyfriend, so she wanted a good camera to remember the trip. A week later she comes home, gives me the camera. I turn it on. The first thing I see is a thumbnail of my sister dildoing herself. Why have I seen my mother and sister's vaginas? FML. Not me, but a friend. When she was a kid she went to the basement at a friend's house and found the father of that house masturbating their male dog. He insisted he did it to relieve the dog's tension. Customers of the adult cinema I used to work at. One had his arm up the other one's butt, up till his elbow, and waved with the other hand to greet me. Day after I was cleaning, and there was a trail of it from the seats they were doing their thing to the bin. Yay, great days. Was coming from a party with a train at night. Some drunk dude fell under the train and got his legs chopped. I watched from the dock and saw him screaming under the parked train. Not sure if he survived. I could only see my father's feet from the entrance of the doorway, and there was some minor twitching. I assumed he was having a heart attack and had collapsed. Nope, he was just laying on the floor naked beating it while my mom was at the supermarket. I came back for the weekend from college. I think he forgot I was there. I managed a pizza place in Alabama in the 90s, went back to the office and the door was shut and locked, which never happened. It was old, so I easily pushed it open, and one of my cooks in his 30s was smoking meth with a 16-year-old counter girl. He was holding the swivel chair while she was standing on it trying to blow smoke into the ceiling vent, which only blew outward. Ducking. Subscribe to Reddit Throne. Ducking subscribe to Reddit Throne.